Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the County Seat. I'm your host, Chad Booth. We are bringing you this special episode of the County Seat from the Tooele County Jail. We will be talking to some of the sheriffs around the state. In essence, it's kind of appropriate that we're here because many of the sheriffs feel like they're being held hostage by condition of probation prisoners. So this new jail facility was a great place for us to accentuate that conversation. Now, we have discussed as a topic of this program COP 3 times in the course of a year. We even went at length to do an entire episode just covering the topic in a documentary-style program. The reason being is that it's such an important issue. Condition of probation prisoners are actually prisoners who are sentenced in a state court, and instead of being sent to prison to serve out their sentence, the judge puts them on probation and sends them directly to a county jail. And from there, the judge has more control over conditions of their sentencing to make sure that rehabilitation takes place or certain conditions are met, and that the judge can be more hands-on in their rehabilitation. The problem's not so much in the system and how it works, but it's how the state has chosen to pay for it. Over the course of the last several years, COP prisoners are not reimbursed at the same rate that contract prisoners are with the county jails, and certainly they're not paying what they would be paying if they were covering them incarcerated within the state penitentiary system. And therein lies the rub. The amounts are unreliable, and they are sometimes so short that they're paying as little as $15 or $16 a day, a cost that you couldn't even keep your kids at home at. Joining us here at the table is the Utah County Sheriff, Jim Tracy, and we have Reed Richardson, who is the
I'm an attorney with the county attorney's office and do work for the Sheriff's Association.
There you go. The funding has come up. Now, last year, they had an ongoing funding of $8 million, and they gave you a one-time funding of $3 million that you have to scratch for each year. What does that look like this year?
Well, the funding has gone up and down. 4 years ago, we were at about almost $12 million. Then 3 years ago, they cut it down to $6 million and stayed there for a couple of years. And then last year, we were able to get it in total up to $11 million, but only $8 million of that is continuing money. The other is one-time money. So this year, as we go into the appropriation process, we have to try to convince the legislature that all $11 million is essential and should be funded, and that'll be the effort this year.
Is that enough to really solve the problem, or does it still create a significant shortfall?
Well, we'd have to go back a little further to answer that question. About 6 or 7 years ago, after many, many years of discussion, we came up with a compromise with the legislature, and they passed actually state laws that indicated that counties would be paid at a rate of 50% of the state cost of incarceration to house this type of prisoner. So the idea would be that you decide what the state cost of housing somebody in the prison would be, and the counties would receive from the state 50% of that amount. That cost of incarceration in the prison is about $80 a day, so that would mean about $40 a day to the counties. And the counties then would absorb the remaining amount and pay that cost. The problem is that amount has never been totally funded ever since that agreement was reached and that was placed into legislation.
Now, there is some resistance by some members of the Senate as they look at this that say, well, we don't have any obligation at all. This is really a county's responsibility, and we'd just as soon not fund any of it. You know, how do the sheriffs address that issue? How do you address that issue?
Well, of course, there are arguments both ways, and that's why the compromise was arrived upon, that the county would pay a part and the state would pay a part. They are people that are arrested in individual counties. If it's a Utah County prisoner, they were arrested for committing a crime in Utah County, probably by either a county sheriff or by a city police officer. They were prosecuted by a county attorney, but they were prosecuted in a state court, administered over by a state judge. They were convicted of a state felony. They were sentenced by a state judge to the state prison, and that prison sentence was suspended, and in lieu of going to prison, they were placed in the county jail. So you really have a role both for the state and the county, and that's why the agreement was made that would be split 50-50.
Sheriff Tracy, you have a great deal of impacts. How many COP prisoners are you actually processing through your jail right now?
Well, right now, annually, we have about 170 COP prisoners on a daily count.
And that represents what percentage of your population?
Of the 900 man facility or woman facility. It's about what, 25%.
Okay, we are going to continue this conversation. We specifically want to take some time to talk to you about the impacts and the financial side of what this situation creates so that people better understand the impact on their tax dollars. We will be right back with more of the county seat here at the Tooele County Jail in just a minute.
The State of Utah School and Institutional Trust Lands Administration. SITLA manages 3.5 million acres of Utah lands with the express purpose of furthering the education of Utah students while promoting local industry, oil and gas, even residential development, all at the same time. Through the careful use of trust lands, we distributed more than $22 million to Utah schools last year. The State of Utah School and Institutional Trust Lands Administration, building the state's permanent school fund.
Imagine a place where the world's largest concentration of scenic attractions can be found, where radiant cliffs of 2 national parks and 3 state parks tower to kiss the azure sky. Come and visit any one of the many memorable sites and events that Bryce Canyon Country, Garfield County, Utah has to offer. Drive along National Scenic Byway 143 and All-American Road Highway 12 and experience the ultimate adventure.
Some people just live life. Others turn life into a great adventure. The only difference is where they choose to experience it. Come to Uinta County, Utah, where business, recreation, just life in general. Move from the mundane to the magnificent. Come to learn. Come to play. Come and do more than just live life. Uinta County. Find out what you're missing in undiscovered Utah.
I remember the first time that our family found that canyon road. I thought, here we go again, another road to nowhere. But boy, was I wrong. It was 9 Mile Canyon, and what we saw was more than I could ever have expected. At the end of the day, my son asked,
Mom, can we come back here again?
That was all I needed to hear.
What happens in Utah's Castle Country stays with you. Find out more at castlecountry.com.